everyone. My name is Bridget McGraw, and I used to work with PilotCity for a couple of years, 2015 through 18, end of 2015. And I have worked in tech for many, many years, and also have worked as an artist. And what I'm most interested in is passing on to you a sense of responsibility as you go forward, creating and doing things in the world, whether it's in tech or at home. So I have a co-host joining me. I have a son called Pablo who is in his second year in product design at the University of Sussex in England. And it's a very long story as to why I live in Oakland and he lives in England, but he's here for the summer, and there you go. Ethics in big data and artificial intelligence. There are three terms that I want you to leave knowing today. If somebody says to you, "What are ethics?" you will be able to answer. If they say, "What is big data?" or big data, you might not be able to answer because I'm not sure I can answer. And even Wikipedia can't answer directly and succinctly. And artificial intelligence, same story. We'll do our best to define those terms. So in philosophy, traditionally, there are three major branches: metaphysics, which is what is real. Epistemology tries to define how we know something is real, how we measure things. And ethics is basically how do we know if something is good or bad? I think we all have a sense of morality. I am now going to mute my phone. I think my son is probably trying to get the link here. Will you excuse me, people, while I check my messages? No, it is my son. He said he'll join when I tell him to. I want him to join now. There you go. So ethics, how do we know something is right or wrong? People often speak to morality. This is a gray area. Ethics is not binary. Binary means digital. Digital means two states, on, off, 1, 0. The entire digital universe is a set of binary or on-off states. And I don't know if you want to go there now, but that's another story too. How do we learn ethics? I learned a lot of things at home. I come from a large family. There were 6 children. I am the baby of 6 children. And I learned, that it's not okay to take food from another person's plate. It is wrong to take, it is wrong to push your grandparents around. This is good, this is bad. We also have societal institutions. A lot of people are religious. They go to mosques and churches and temples, and they learn what is right or wrong there too. Government, I would not use the current government as a yardstick as to what is good and bad, what is right and wrong, because again, that's another story. I often go off on segues, so I'm doing my best to stay focused. Human bias gets passed on to machines, and when I talk later about big data, you will hear what I mean there. So I am going to have my son Pablo tell you about a classic problem. It's called the trolley problem, which is just, it's one way to focus, excuse me, specifically on how people make decisions about what is right and what is wrong. Over to you, Pablo. Okay. He said he would join me. Sorry, people. Pablo? Hello, hello. Okay, he's not with me at the moment. So basically, I will describe to you what the trolley problem is. Imagine this. It's a thought experiment. Imagine this. There's a train rolling down the tracks at high speed, and you, as you can see in the center of this image, you have the choice. You can either let that trolley kill 5 people if it continues on its course, or you can pull a lever and switch the track and it will only kill 1 person. What do you do? Do you guys want to jump in on the Zoom chat and let me know what you would do? I'm really curious because everybody has a different notion of right and wrong. Some people think do no harm no matter what, and switching the track to 1, to kill just 1 person could be considered as harming somebody. Other people stick to the minimize harm approach, which means, oh, if I switch the track. So let me see what you guys are doing. And Pablo, are you with me yet?
He is not, Bridget. Can I send him a link through email?
Yes. Oh, he wanted to know the code, and guess what the code is?
It is code.
I sent it earlier, and he didn't see it.
All
I
good.
said the password will be coming soon. Anyway, he will be in to join. So Kenneth, was that you just now?
Yeah, that is me. That is me.
Yes. What would you do you think?
I was actually asked this question in an interview for one of my
Oh,
at a hospital. So they were like,
interesting.
"Hey, you have 5 people who need organs, and you have 1 person who could give it all to them. But if you took organs from that one person would die. But if you didn't give any organs to the 5 people, those 5 people would die." And I think like my answer was save the 1 person, because at the end of the day, I feel like what matters is quality over quantity. Like a patient like who's in your hands, their life should be matter no matter how many lives matter, like.
Right.
So I think that was my answer. So it'd be quality over quantity for me. So I wouldn't switch.
Right.
But
That's it. That's interesting. I'm going to include a link to it's MIT. I think it's called the Moral Machine, moralmachine.mit.edu, and people can do this for themselves. And they find, what they have found is that you can modify the people. So the 5 people on the track, you could say they are old people, 3 old people, and the one on the other track is a healthy young person or a pregnant person. What would you do? Or things like that. Pablo, are you with me?
he is here.
All
Yeah.
right.
Here you go.
Hello, Pablo. You are my
Hi.
co-host to
Am I?
have already. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
I've
Like,
just gone through the trolley problem, and I wanted to know if you have anything that you'd like to say about it. You know, what you've learned.
Well, I'm sure you've kind of covered the basis of each argument, whether or not taking an active stance and actually making a move and switching the trolley is better, essentially, even though you're going to kill less people, but you are then getting involved as opposed to not. So that's kind of the base level of it. I think something we want to tie it into data a bit. If you look into electric cars, you can see that they've had to start to deal with this in relation to what they would do if they were about to crash. So electric cars, they're able to see where they are, what they're about to hit, who's around them. And there's always been a trolley problem issue within that, is that, like, should they prioritize saving the people in the car, or should they prioritize not hitting people outside the car? Should they, like, if there's a car going and it's, it won't be able to stop, is it better that it runs into a wall, killing everyone inside, or runs into someone crossing the street? Everyone lives. Well, everyone inside the car lives. And it's an interesting kind of debate, is who matters more? Is it the people taking the risk by being in the car in the first place? Should the car even make the decision? Is it ethical that it's not a person making a decision, it's an algorithm?
Mm-hmm.
That's an application of the trolley problem that
Right.
is very real and could affect a huge amount of our society very soon.
Right. Thank you. So that leads us to our next slide. We are on our second term. We've just gone through ethics. And for those of you in the chat, I haven't even looked at the chat because I'm looking at my show full screen. I hope you continue to think about this as you go through your work with PilotCity, and if you create prototypes, bear in mind who you're harming and who you're helping. So, big data, we're on number 2. I just took a MOOC, which is a massively open online course, and that was my instructor. He's at UC Davis. Anyway, he really dislikes the word big data. And what he says, he shortens it to your digital footprint, because that's exactly what it is. It is not your foot, it is your footprint. And all of us every day are leaving digital dust everywhere, whether we are browsing the internet or on social media. And the classic definition of big data is, they used to say the 3 V's, which were volume, number 1, velocity, which means it changes in real time, and variety. So big data has actually enabled artificial intelligence to exist the way it does now. And I'll get to that in a few minutes. Here's the classic: volume, velocity, and variety. I may have said that wrong. Let me know. This is from a business website, I think Oracle or Microsoft or one of those guys. The thing that I find terrifying, and the reason I want to bring ethics into this conversation, is it has been proven that big data knows us better than we know ourselves. So if you read what my professor said, 1 to 300 Facebook likes can be used to automatically and accurately predict sexual orientation, ethnicity, religious and political views, and personality traits, intelligence, et cetera, addictive behaviors. So the fact is, if you are a heavy user or even a medium user of Facebook or Instagram, the algorithm behind the scenes knows and can predict your behavior better than your family, better than you yourself can. That just stopped me in my tracks. Pablo, have you heard this before?
I've not heard this specific note, but I know in relation to Cambridge Analytica and stuff that they have done to interfere with politics,
Mm-hmm.
it's entirely plausible that they managed to obtain data on something like 70% of Americans,
Mm-hmm.
just based on a large amount of pulling of data from Facebook, specifically because even if you didn't have a Facebook account, it was able to generalize essentially based on your zip code, based on where you went. So even if you weren't a Facebook user, if you visited sites that had Facebook ads, it's still collecting data on you. And
Yes.
because of that, they were able to create these profiles of individuals, even if they weren't Facebook users.
Right. So one of the things, if you have not yet heard of Cambridge Analytica, jot that down or type it into your notes to look it up later. Facebook sold for a lot of money. Well, actually, they weren't the recipients, Cambridge Analytica. They sold user data to a company called Cambridge Analytica, which then made political advertisements. I'm not getting this straight. Pablo's more articulate about it. But look it up, Cambridge Analytica. What Facebook has done is manipulated people. And this is how elections get manipulated. And and that, in my sense of morality of what is right and what is wrong, is just dead wrong. So artificial intelligence. So at the moment, 30, do I have a slide that says this? Yeah, I'm trying to define artificial intelligence, and major academics are working very hard to do that. And I'm not a major academic. I'm a minor thinker. So when I took a Coursera course on ethics and big data and artificial intelligence, this guy who teaches at another UC, I can't remember which one, was super articulate about the extent of artificial intelligence. It is when computers and algorithms are creating decisions. I mean, that's one way of thinking of artificial intelligence. And Kenneth or Pablo, if you have other definitions, I could read one from, I thought I had one from Wikipedia. There we go. Wikipedia, oh no, it's the dictionary. The theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks normally requiring human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and translation between languages. The branches of it are in perception. So when you have sensors on a self-driving car or on a Nest thermostat or a Ring doorbell, those are those perceptions, those perceptors, receptors, then feed into gigantic data sets that make decisions based on them. There are so many chatbots. If you look at reasoning, planning, motion, robots are becoming more and more reliant upon artificial intelligence, as are self-driving cars, which Pablo referred to earlier. And finally, natural language processing. If any of you use Alexa, I'm going to see if any of you have one going. Alexa, buy more dental floss. Did it work? All right. That was a joke, everybody. Oh, I thought I got a text telling me to stop joking, but it was something else. So briefly, artificial intelligence has been around since 1943. In the course of human history, that's not very long. This slide just gives a few, this is incomplete, of applications of machine learning. Now, I'm going to go on to attempt to combine the three terms, which is what you're here to do today, is to think about how to apply ethics to big data and artificial intelligence. So, oh, my slides are in an odd order. I apologize for this. Before I go on to the ethics, I wanted to say that 30% of the companies, large corporations in the world right now, are using artificial intelligence. AGI, which stands for Artificial General Intelligence, is the hypothetical intelligence that a machine will one day have the capacity to understand and learn like a human. So oftentimes when people say artificial intelligence, they're thinking of this generalized AGI and a singularity moment when the machines know more than people. So at the moment, we're at 30% of companies are using it. We may or may not get to an AGI. All right, getting back to combining ethics and big data, artificial intelligence. As I said, I took this course when COVID hit and we were in lockdown. I was in Florida with my 95-year-old father, and I went online to see what I wanted to study. And big data, artificial intelligence, and ethics is what I care most about right now, because I think the implications for human society are so vast. And it's so important right now that we keep humanity in the forefront of everything we develop with these incredibly powerful tools called big data and artificial intelligence. And they are tools. And something that I learned many years ago is that things can be a weapon or a tool. So think of a hammer. You can fix something, or you can knock someone on the head, or rope. And rope, people say, could be humanity's first tool if you go back to thousands of years to when people started gathering together and living together as creatures. That's another story. I'm going to show you how easy it is. If any of you are interested in MOOCs, are you seeing my Coursera page, people? Pablo, Kenneth?
It looks like a blank page right now.
Oh.
It's blank. It's blank.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front. How do I do that?
I think you need to share your whole screen.
Ah, okay. Oh, it's because I'm sharing the keynote. Are you back to the keynote?
Yeah.
Oh. Pablo,
Yes.
oh, never mind. Could you come here and help me?
if you send me the link,
I
I
am
can,
actually, what?
If you send me the link, I can share it.
And then
share it here.
You share it. All right, I won't do this one. There are other. How are we doing on time? Oh, we have plenty of time.
Yeah, you
All
have
right.
25 minutes.
Right. Well, I'd like some input from people too at the end. Have these courses been interactive, Kenneth?
We only ran one before this, and he only had question time at the end. But I think so far you're doing pretty well.
All right. So I would prefer to know how to share this. So Pablo, if you could come here, that would be so excellent.
Okay.
Then I don't have to, copy and paste, and I can carry on. So after I got 2 certifications here in Coursera. Then I took another one, which I'm currently enrolled in, which is being taught at the University of Edinburgh. Hello.
I can hear you.
Oh, sorry. That must be horrible. Click on it. Oh, new share. New share.
Set it to this desktop, and it'll.
Okay, so.
Yeah, that should now be sharing everything on this desktop.
Thank you very much.
I don't know how you'll get it back to the keynote then.
I'll do my best. But now I saw it.
Also, if you want to see some responses from students, they have made some comments in the chat. If you check.
Oh, good. I know how to find my chat, I think. 9 comments. Thank you, people. I'm so glad I'm not alone out here. Oh, good. Good, good. All right. I will come back to that. All right. So people of PilotCity, this course that I'm taking on edX, I'll give you the links. Are you still seeing my face too? Because I might just close my window so I'm less self-conscious. So I have links to these as well, but this is a great course. It's really highly intellectual. This other course at UC Davis, I loved it. I don't know what age you are. I didn't even ask Kenneth. What sort of age are the students or grade school year?
This summer we have people who are entering high school and then all the way up to people who are entering their second year in college.
Okay, great. Because I was thinking more senior in high school going on to college.
Yeah, it's really big.
So, great. So I would, if you are interested in delving into this topic more, I'd love to suggest these 2 massively open online courses. So I've done a lot of reading. I really love this quote by an Oxford professor of data ethics. And basically, if you don't want to read the whole thing, I will say to you that he says, I have no idea what data ethics means. It's one of those buzzwords that pretends to help us navigate these new waters, but it doesn't do much. And he says instead that we must ask, what value does it add to a company and society at large? And that is the key to anything you're developing, anything you're doing as a human being, is what value are you bringing to society at large? Thingfully, that's the name of my business, and I started out as the Internet of Things, a place to have lesson plans for educators to teach the Internet of Things, but I was ahead of the curve, and Internet of Things were not really on teachers' minds yet. But what I say about data ethics is that ethics are completely subjective. I have lived in the Philippines, in Kenya, in California, in Minnesota, in New York City. and I've traveled a lot, and ethics are based on individuals' values and also society at large's values. And at the moment, our country is in a crisis of contrasting values. So we are in an ethical, I think that what's going on in our country right now is a question for ethics. It's time for people to think about ethics and to act on their values. With big data, I say keep it simple. And amazingly, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy just published an article at the end of April on ethics of artificial intelligence and robotics. So this is a really good time to start thinking about this. Forbes, a business magazine, thinks that data privacy will be the most important issue in the next decade. There are a few concerns that come with big data. One is privacy, another is security, and a third one is identity. I've been using computers since about 1989. I got serious about them in 1992. And I have many identities in my data, in my footprint, right? In my digital footprint. One of those identities arose in about 2003, 4, 5, when I started seeing how data privacy was being compromised already. And then, so I made up a character called Nunyo Bidnet, as in none of your business. And Nunyo Bidnet has a website, a Facebook page, Twitter handle, et cetera, and people. I'm not the first and only one to do that. Apparently, there are farms of people doing this in Eastern Bloc countries, what we used to call Eastern Bloc countries, also known as Russia and so on. Pablo, do you have any insights on how that happens?
In terms of people having like kind of identities to keep themselves secure, or
no, how is it that people have claimed that Russian bots and bot farms took the American election in 2016? Could you explain what bot farms are, or people? Have you heard of this?
yeah, so on a broader sense, essentially what they've done is they've made use of data through various social medias that they've been able to collect from individuals to understand what it is that would most benefit a certain movement or statement or kind of something they'd like to push through. So they essentially figure out where they'd have the most power by adding just numbers and numbers of voices. So if you can have a huge number of people talking about something from a certain perspective, putting out a lot of information about something, you're likely to bring other people along to your cause. It's a similar idea. You see a lot of people behind a movement, you consider it more valid. So what they've done essentially, and this doesn't only apply to election manipulation, it applies to everything. It's the same technology that is being used when you buy likes on Instagram. It's the same concept. So they essentially have figured that they can control this. And in the case of Twitter bots, they create these accounts. Sometimes they're bots, sometimes they're being run by just huge warehouses of individuals who are being paid, very small amounts of money to have 16 phones in front of them and tweet things. It can be manual, it can be automatic, and they're essentially just pushing an agenda through fairly basic means. And interestingly, if you look hard, it's not difficult to spot at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just reading headlines, if you're just reading essentially quick tweets without looking into who's posting it, why are they posting it, what else have they posted, it's very easy to be caught by it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
it's almost fascinating that it's had such a huge effect, because it wouldn't take a lot for it to be controlled. But nonetheless, kind of the way we absorb news now is kind of built that to be problematic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. So I just want to give all of you a heads up to keep track of your own data. And I'm sure you've all heard of William Yang, who ran for president. And what he has introduced just this week, in fact, is the Data Dividend Project, which is like a universal basic income, but using your data. So what he's attempting to do is to get people to sign up and give him, you've got to trust him, I guess, give him your information, you're not giving him access to your data footprint exactly, but you are giving him your name and email address, and if you have a PayPal account, one of those email addresses should be connected to it. And he is on a mission to get people to get money from their data. So this is a fascinating approach. I think there's another thinker called Jaron Lanier, who invented the data glove, he's called the grandfather of virtual reality. And he invented a data glove back in the 80s for VR. And he wrote a book called You Are Not a Gadget, which made a case for people being able to collect money for everything they do digitally that is worth something to other people. And at the moment, there are a few companies, handful of companies, that are making gazillions, which is, I think that's a 1 followed by 18,000 zeros, gazillions of dollars off of people's digital footprints. And what William Yang is saying is, you should own your digital footprint. It was made by your foot, not your foot. Most people type with their hands. You made it, you created it, it's your information, your data, and you should earn money from it. All right, I have a couple more things I'd like to share with you and then open it up to discussion. And, we have 12 minutes, perfect. So that's the Data Dividend Project. There is a video that you might want to watch. We're training machines to be racist. So mind you, whatever bias we have as people, we are training our machines, our artificial intelligence, the algorithms that make the decisions, whether it's in a self-driving car or an Amazon warehouse, pick and pull, whatever, or biometrics, facial recognition. We're training them to be racist. And this woman is fascinating. I'll just show you a couple minutes.
I don't think we can get the audio of your share screen.
What, Pablo?
We can't get the audio through your share screen.
Oh, all right. So never mind.
But
Thank
something
you
worth
for
mentioning,
notifying me. Yeah.
something worth mentioning on that is a core example was Amazon tried to write a artificial intelligence that would essentially handle their job applications. So they wanted to be able to feed in resumes, and it would get rid of that first step, removing people who didn't have the relevant qualifications, didn't live in the right place, just didn't really fit their initial background. Now, they did this while also trying to make sure that it wouldn't be biased, because they wanted to eliminate bias and bring in more diversity into their kind of corporate level. And they completely failed because, of course, even though they wrote the bot to not take into account gender, age, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, they stopped it from looking at any of that due to simple things such as like the way people write and the way people phrase things based on where they're from, what their kind of the society they've grown up in. And of course, they trained this bot by giving it the resumes of all of their current employees. So completely, essentially accidentally, they managed to teach it to prioritize resumes written by white men, because those were the resumes that had been previously accepted and were used to train it. So a lot of this can be done completely accidentally, just based on the power of AI not being realized with something you could easily forget. But it's important that when you do something like this, you need to think about, sorry?
Huh, I thought I heard someone jump in too.
Did anyone have a question?
I think someone just accidentally unmuted themselves.
Okay. Yeah, so it's essentially, it's important to think about both, obviously, if you're actively trying to cause malice, then that's a problem, but also there are ways of easily doing this accidentally. And it's very important to test and realize basically every possible outcome of giving data or an AI the power to just kind of control something.
So students, do you have any questions for me or Pablo about data, ethics, artificial intelligence?
I have a question. How could, if we were like making a website for our entrepreneur internship, how could we implement AI in an ethical way into like a website or our product if it required technology?
So what sort of website or project is it? The thing about ethics is it's subjective and it's dependent on what you're doing. Yeah.
Or like actually I have a better way. So say we're like have like a target group that we have for our product. If we made if there was like an ad or commercial, how would other things like Google already account for like targeting that group with their algorithm, or how would that work?
Pobs, do you have any? I mean, you're talking about marketing, and the thing I want to impress on you is that if you are using the data from these sites, that you don't put bias into your marketing, say.
Yeah, I think in terms of, a couple of things to consider about the ethics that you're using. On a very foundational level, advertising on the internet is either done by Facebook or Google. And on a kind of standard level as to how they handle data, Google doesn't sell data, Facebook does. So although Google makes use of your data in every way possible, and by all means abuses it themselves, they keep a very tight control on it, whereas Facebook is fairly open to selling it off to third parties. So if you're thinking ethics on the most base level, it would be not working with Facebook. But of course, that does eliminate you from Instagram and from Facebook, which are two of the best marketing services that are available. So that's the first layer of kind of do you make that decision? And obviously, as a new kind of startup business entrepreneurship project, it's very difficult to make that trade-off. If you get to a point of like semi-success and you can start to actually essentially take slight risks and do things that will not benefit you as much, then yeah, the ethical standpoint would be to get rid of your Facebook ads. And in relation to just the next level down is making sure that when you advertise to groups, you don't want to target so specifically that you're essentially targeting individuals. So you want to look at what your target audience is. You pick an age range, you pick an interest range, you pick a vague location. I think the line of abuse is, again, it's very subjective, but I think once you get into the like thousands of people as opposed to 10,000s of people, you're starting to push towards such individualized targeting that you may want to seriously consider how you're doing it to make sure you're doing it ethically.
Okay.
And I just want to tell everybody that it is Andrew Yang, not William Yang. I'm sorry, I knew a photographer called William Yang when I was living in Australia. So thanks for catching that, Katie. And Pablo, that was excellent advice. And you have your finger on the pulse of product development because you are studying product development.
I am.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hypotheticals?
We have 3 minutes. Should we, hey, Pablo, if you go into the chat, people had some comments on the trolley problem, the great trolley problem.
Yes.
Switch lanes.
Yes, so switch lanes.
Can you relate the trolley problem to like machine learning now? Or like a computer that would have pulled the lever?
Right.
So
well,
the example I gave with self-driving cars, essentially being given the choice as to who they kill if they're going to have to kill someone. So, you know, cars' brakes fail and they have to decide between running into a wall and killing everyone in the car versus running into a pedestrian and saving everyone in the car. That's not yet something that's happening, but already I believe BMW it was a big thing that they were kind of figuring out. They launched an open website where people could go through a number of questions and just say like, what would you prefer the car to hit in all these scenarios? And it was honestly just to kind of poll a large group of people and see. It was a research thing. It wasn't like whichever wins they're going to implement. It was entirely a research project. But that's something that could be applied fairly soon. But it's also a very drastic example.
All right. Any more questions for the Bridget Pablo team? I thank you all. I have this PDF which I will share, and there's some great links on it. I really encourage you to watch the TED Talk she's a postdoc candidate at PhD candidate at MIT. She may have earned it already because this was a year old. It's called "We're Training Machines to Be Racist." And what she did, she came into this program as an artist and found that facial recognition would not even see her face, would not even recognize it. So she created a white mask and then would color it and things like that, and just to see what already existing facial recognition software would recognize.
Yeah, I've also dropped a couple of links in the chat. One is OpenAI, which is an organization that was kind of co-started by Elon Musk and a number of other individuals who were kind of involved on data from a huge kind of corporate level. and they're writing a charter that essentially is a series of kind of laws or guidelines around developing AI to make sure that it doesn't kind of take over the world. That's one. And then the second link is to an episode of a podcast that I co-host where we talked about data and Facebook and Cambridge Analytica.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Amactus. Amactus is Pablo's other name, his online. It's like my Nanyo Bidnet.
Everyone needs an online name.
Yes.